Algebra and the TI calculator. This is a little review unit for those of you, refresh yourself from the summer on your calculator skills and to remind you why we do what we do, why we're learning what we learn. So why study algebra? When am I ever going to use this stuff? People ask me all the time. And algebra is the beginning of all our upper level abstract math, but it's more than just the study of equations. It's more than that. The equations are kind of an end result. It's only one part of studying the data. Data and the study of patterns and trends using data is everywhere. Football, baseball, shopping, the statistics go on and on and on. Now you may not realize it, but you are a piece of data. You have numbers attached to you, and be they identification numbers, just numbers about your phone number, your clothing size, the stores you walk into, the yardage you make on the field, or the goals you make in basketball. You are data, and people are collecting data about you, whether you like it or not. So if you don't continue any of your studies in further abstract math beyond what you study in high school, you will need to know how the world is using you as a piece of data. Now we'll start that simply in Algebra 1, but it will get more and more advanced as you advance in your studies. The first thing about the data that we're going to really find handy is using this TI calculator. If you don't remember much about the TI calculator, you use it for the number operations. Most of you use these keys right here for number operations. That's your add, subtract, multiply, divide. The other thing the calculator is used for is graphing, and that's mostly these keys right up here. And those tell us all the different ways we can look at a graph. The gray, blue, and black keys are mostly used for math. And the graphing is that top blue. It's written up there. The second key, which is right here, is what's going to tell us to toggle between different things, like the top row and the blue writing, or the other buttons that you kind of see behind the buttons, you toggle it through. You also have an alpha key we won't use very much. These keys over here, this serves as the cursor keys. Those are used like a mouse to move around on your screen. And the second key is important to clear your calculator screen. You want to use second and then quit, and that will get you out of an application. If clear does not get you out of the program, you can always use clear, which is right there, okay, or second quit. One will get you out if the other one doesn't. Do not use the delete key. The delete key ends up deleting sometimes important parts of a program. And if you do accidentally use it, you have to use your calculator memory reset, and then you'll lose all your data and you have to start all over with your project. The stat key right here is what we're going to use here in the beginning when we're plotting points. Stat allows you to put in and manipulate that data, move it around. We mostly are using it the edit mode to enter the data. So you're going to see on your screen edit, and I don't know if I can write it up here, edit, calc, and tests. If I could do a screenshot, I would. But it's going to have all three of these things at the top of your screen. we're not going to use the calc option until later in the year. And the tests are used in statistics, so we won't use that. But we're going to use the edit feature a lot here at the beginning. Okay? The edit feature is where we get to put in data. It will allow us to take the data and inspect it all different ways. When we hit Stat, Edit, and then Enter, we will get some lists on our screen. And it'll say List 1, List 2, List 3, and it'll go all the way to 6 lists. Okay? You'll type your data in and then use these cursor keys, arrow keys, to move back and forth from the lists. You'll need to be careful when entering your data so that if you have something in this list and you want it to match up with this list, some number like an X and a Y and plot of points for a coordinate, you'll have to make sure they're on the same line. If list 1 does not match up to list 2 the way you want it to, your points will be graphed wrong. So just make sure you have them on the same line. Now the stat plot button right here is used to tell the calculator to graph your list of data points. Okay? You can access it by going second, and then Y equals is written on the button. That's how you get to stat plot. Second, and then Y equals. That means stat plot. And stat plot tells us, again, how you want your points graphed. It must be turned on or off appropriately, or an error message occurs. You have to black highlight designates your choices on or off. You can choose different types of graphs. There's, when you get to that screen, there are, in addition to on and off, you will have a points, and you will have a line graph, and you will have, that connects the points. You'll have a bar graph, choice, and then you will have box and whisker type plots where you have these going on here. Okay. These are for statistics. What we're mostly going to use this year, we're mostly going to use the plotted points. We might use a little bit of the line graph, but not much. This will be the one we use the most right here, plotting points. A lot of people want to try to use the line graph. It's really not needed. The next thing on this screen of stat plot when you're in it, and I'm writing off the screen because I'm having to write so big, but the second thing it'll have choosing your X list and your Y list. Remember, the X list is your horizontal movement on a graph. It's the run. And then the Y list is your vertical, okay? And that's the jump. Like Miss Hicks used to say, you run and then you jump. To get to your X list and Y list, to tell the calculator what you want to graph, you want to go use your second button on these two and use second and either 1 or 2, and that'll get you to a list 1 and a list 2 to tell it where to pick the numbers from. So you've got to remember, you walk to the elevator before you go up and down, or you run before you jump, either which way you want to remember it. The last thing on the stat plot screen is the mark. How do you want to mark your points? You can mark it with a teeny tiny dot. You can mark it with the donut dot, which is what I call, or you can mark it with a little bitty plus. That's the different kinds of marks. One of the last things you want to do on your calculator when you're setting it up to graph is you want to use the window key. The window key is basically telling the calculator not what you want to draw, but the window that it has to be set in. That's the coordinate plane. So if you're going to use a standard window allows you to see the data from -10 to +10, -10 to +10. This would be your X minimum. This would be your X maximum. I don't know if I can squeeze that on there. And then this would be your Y minimum, and this would be your Y maximum. Well, easy enough, right? Well, maybe you don't want to use a standard window. Maybe you want to use a window that is a little bit different. Maybe you want to use a window that is a little lopsided or something, like the one in by the sea. If you use the window in by the sea, let's see if I can get this going. If you use the window in by the sea, they say X is -20, 20, and 1. And that means that this value is going to be -20, this value is going to be +20, and we're going to count by ones all along the axis. That's what these values mean in by the sea. If you were to use the settings from by the sea for Y, it would have -15, 15, and 1, which means that this down here is -15, this is +15, and it's also going to count by ones. Sometimes we might want to count by 2s or 5s or even 100s if our data are really large. On the window screen, you're also, so that deals with our X minimum, our X maximum, our X scale, that's that SCL, our Y minimum, our Y maximum, and our Y scale. And the last thing you'll see on the window screen will be X res. X res has to do with the resolution of the screen, and we don't have to mess with that. If we don't keep it at 1, it will get distorted. It's not the sharpest screen, it's kind of pixelated, but you don't need to pixelate it anymore. We're just not going to mess with X-res if you have that option. So now I would like you to go ahead and try to complete 1-1A by the sea in class using your calculator. Just read and follow the directions. If you have any questions, ask me. Be sure that I check your calculator graph at the certain checkpoints to see that you're following the directions and the picture's coming out correctly. Make sure that I check mark that you've asked me questions appropriately and that I've asked you questions appropriately about the by the sea activity. Good luck, and let me know if you have any problems.